So yes, we're going to start in cobbler pose, and I'm going to say this now. We're going to be doing the class in a slightly different order than I planned it. So this is what I planned at the beginning, but I'm sure it will all pan out well. But I usually teach a very similar thing Thursday evening to Friday morning. So I'm just going to let someone else in. So stay in cobbler pose. And yeah, having taught things last night, I thought, oh, well, I wasn't entirely happy. So anyway, so it's going to be a little bit more experimental today, just in a slightly different order. So from cobbler pose, you can either just sit and have a couple of breaths leaning back on your hands. You could do a little bit of rocking. It really depends how your hips are feeling, how your lower back's feeling. And we're going to be coming over into pinwheel in a moment. So I just wanted us to do a few hip things, hip openers, as they're called, to start with. So from cobbler pose, I've got to let someone else in. You can bring one knee over and come on into pinwheel when you're ready. Oh, it's very nice, Kate. Nice to see you, and B. And Hillary's arriving. So good. Yeah, so when you've arrived in pinwheel on one side, you can do a little bit of circling. And what I thought would be nice, and particularly as I'm letting people in, is to have perhaps slightly longer in our pinwheel forward bend than we normally would do. So when you're ready, you can turn towards your knee that's going out to the side, and you can fold down over that leg. And just come to a place that feels comfortable, I think particularly for the shoulders. So wherever you settle, it could be your hands on the floor, it could be your elbows. For some of you, it might be your forehead, but just notice how your shoulders are feeling and just see if you can adjust yourself so that your shoulders feel soft and relaxed. And you can let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Just see if you can, how is it to settle there and focus in on your breathing. I like just sort of check that no one's got stuck in the waiting room. Hi, Hillary, really nice to see you. We came from cobbler pose over into pinwheel. So when you're ready, you can do that. And those of you who are in pinwheel, when you're ready, you can have another breath or two, because I did say extra time here, and it is nice to take our time. But when you're ready to come back into cobbler pose, before we move on to side 2, then you can, in your own time, start to walk your hands in, start to slide your back leg on top of your front leg. So Hillary, you might want to sort of quickly do your side one of pinwheel and just spend a little bit less time. So when you come back into cobbler pose, if you want to do any sort of rocking type things, what else could you do? You could do a little bit of rocking. You could do a little bit of circling. And you can do these sort of side lengthening ones if you so wish. So it's really a chance to, what do you feel? What does your body feel? And it might just be that you feel you want to keep leaning back on your arms and not doing that much. And we'll go on to side 2 of pinwheel. That's quite nice to be sort of wobbling the knees, very nice. And when you come on to side 2 of pinwheel, I was thinking that you could do this one where you give yourself a hug and you circle with your hands on your shoulders and you're looking down towards the ground. So you can feel really wide across your upper back, across the back of the shoulder, top of the shoulders, the back of the neck, if you look forward. So if you are feeling sort of stiff or tight in those places, shoulders, neck, upper back, then that can be quite nice. And then when you're ready, I'm going to let someone else in, you're going to fold over your thigh into your pinwheel forward bend on side 2. So Alison, when you arrived, we were doing a little bit of cobbler pose and pinwheel. So we're on side 2 of pinwheel. So it might be that I think, Alison, as you've just joined us, yes. So if you're coming into your pinwheel forward bend, have a few breaths there. Again, think about your shoulders. Alison, if you've just joined us, maybe come into cobbler pose, because we've done this a couple of times. And yeah, I think that would be the best thing for you to do. Come into cobbler pose, okay? Lovely. So those of you who are in pinwheel on your second side, just again, sort of settling there, giving yourself a little bit of time. Yeah, and hopefully this feels nice for the lower back. It feels helpful for the hips. And if we can think about the shoulders being soft and relaxed. And let the breath come in, let the breath leave us. And then you can have another breath or so. You can walk your hands in towards your feet. So Alison, if you come into cobbler pose, everyone else, and Alison, you can sort of alternate as well. I'd like you to lean back on your hands. Sorry, it's a bit sort of dark in my room. I'm just going to stand up and see if I can get it to brighten up. I don't know. Zoom thing's always a bit strange. Okay, so lean back on your hands if you like, and just take your legs long and wide for a moment. Yeah, that's it. And you could give your legs a little bit of a roll. So it might be that your legs want to roll one way more than the other. So they might want to roll in more than out. You sort of roll them and then shake them a little bit. And you can see what's it like to walk your hands a little bit more. Some of you I know are really comfortable sitting here and can easily take your hands off the floor and not feel that you're slumping like a sack of potatoes. You could, so it's up to you whether you carry leaning on your hands. We're not going to be here for long. Perhaps a couple of times you could just stretch into your heels and spread your toes. And that movement in itself, and then you relax your legs. And sometimes that movement in itself, stretching into the heels, spreading the toes, helps our spine to feel a bit more upright. Okay. And then just lean back, let the legs have a little wobble. And we're then going to come onto hands and knees. We're just going to do a couple of things here. So I'd like to come onto hands and knees and do some of your cat movements when you're ready. So coming to rounding and dipping your spine and just using that to see again, how are you feeling today? How does it feel when you round your back to the ceiling? How does it feel when you dip your spine down to the floor? And be aware of your eyes, or use your eyes in this. So look back behind you as you round your back to the ceiling. And look forwards along the ground, and even perhaps up a little bit, up the wall in front of you as you dip your spine to the floor. So using your eyes can help the movements, and the movement can help your gaze as well. So look back behind you, let your back round to the ceiling, and then let your eyes travel along the floor forwards as you dip your spine down. And just do that 2 or 3 more times. Good. So perhaps often we're aware of our gaze where we're looking in cat pose, but I just want you to be a little bit more deliberately aware of it today. In a moment, you're going to move on into dog pose. So whenever you're ready, you can tuck your toes under. You can exhale, you can rock your hips back over your heels and just see how it feels to arrive in dog pose. And when you arrive in dog pose, what do you feel drawn to doing? So it could be, so for me, I came into dog and I really wanted to have a big exhalation. Sort of let my head go. So if the back of your neck's feeling a bit tight, then really letting the head go is good. Yes, bending the knees is good, always good. One knee at a time and then the other knee. Just quickly turning my heating off. I had to, not quite believe I had to put it on for a little bit. From dog pose, we're going to come back down onto hands and knees. And I wanted you to do a bit of tail wagging. You might want to immediately just come down onto your forearms and your elbows to give your hands and wrists a little break. And then come to a bit of wagging your tail. And once you feel that you've given your hands a bit of a break, then come back onto your hands. I mean, if you like moving your elbows, that's absolutely fine. Just a little bit of tail wagging if you like. You can add your lower legs in. So you could do the variation where we just let one foot and lower leg swing out to the side and we look towards that foot. And you repeat that a few times. So you're repeating the same movement on one side. That's it. And then you can do the same movement on the other side. So keeping your knee on the ground, letting your lower leg swing out to the side, looking on the floor towards your foot. And then if you like, you can add both legs in. Swing your legs from side to side. You can do this quickly and maybe not add your head in. And you can do it more slowly and you can add your head in. You can look towards your feet. Maybe just take the weight off your hands again. This time you could do it by rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels. And just have a couple of breaths in child pose. I'd like you in a moment to do another dog pose, but I just want you to have enough time taking the weight off your hands. So when you arrive in child pose, just sort of see how it feels. Is it a place you'd like to stay in? If you sort of get into child and you think, oh, finally, stay there. If it doesn't feel that restful, then move on into dog pose. You're all going to do dog pose anyway, but just choose for yourself. Yes, B, I thought you probably looked not 100% settled there. So when you're ready, you can stay as long in child pose as you like, but when you're ready, when you feel compelled to do so, coming on into a second dog pose. Good. Very nice. Having a few breaths in this dog. Now, from this dog pose, stay as long as you like in this dog pose, but from this dog pose, we're going to be walking our hands into our feet and we're going to be coming up into standing. So into a forward bend, sorry, because I missed out that part. So from dog pose, whenever you like, there's no rush, walking your hands into your feet. So eventually you're going to end up in a forward bend, but you can stay in dog as long as you like. When you end up in a forward bend, if you like, you can bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs if your lower back needs a bit of support. Otherwise, you can just release your arms to the ground. And whatever sort of forward bend you're doing, let your head hang. And then on an exhalation, we're going to roll up into standing. Good. And once we're in standing, we're going to then just do this sort of loose, easy swinging twist. Good. Which, yeah, on a sort of rather cold, damp morning is nice to get ourselves moving. Very nice. So what we're going to do in standing is we're going to do a sort of couple of simple balancing things. We're then going to come back down to the ground and do some things there and then come back up for one more balance. So we're going to do a couple of sort of, yeah, simple things. Swing your arms. Okay, a couple more times. And then letting that go. And maybe then at that point, just have a look down at your feet, check your feet a little distance apart on the floor. We're then going to start to work into the feet a bit by this one where we come up onto the balls of our feet. So up and down. And yeah, you just want to be looking ahead And seeing how it feels to come up onto the balls of your feet, trying to keep quite wide across the balls of your feet. And sort of keep your arms relaxed. And then if you come up and you feel reasonably stable, you can stay there and you can take your arms up and we can have a couple of breaths, sort of just a few breaths here. Letting the shoulders drop. Very nice. Soften the shoulders, soften through the front ribs. If you're not entirely sure whether your front ribs are relaxed, you could bring both hands, one hand or both hands down onto your front ribs and just see, are they quiet? Good. And then from this balance, we're going to let the heels come down. We're going to come all the way into a forward bend. And if in that forward bend, you'd like to sort of sweep your arms from side to side, it's really, again, up to you. You arrive in that forward bend. Do you want to be sort of still and quiet, or do you want some movement? And yeah, just in a way, sense, trying to go with what feels right for you just now. Not that there's a right or a wrong, but yeah, what appeals to you when you're in the pose. And from your forward bend, maybe another cycle of breath, and then coming back up into standing as you exhale. That's it. When you arrive in standing, maybe give your legs a little shake out. Yes, Donna, that was quite nice. Give your pelvis, a bit of shaking out. It can be arms, it can be legs. It can also be shaking the pelvis from side to side, which is maybe nice if your lower back is a little bit tight. And then once more, when you've done whatever shaking out you want to do, once more, have a look down at your feet. Organise your feet a little distance apart. And then come to a bit of swaying from side to side. And you could close your eyes as you do this. So there's something quite this sort of settling and quietening about shifting our weight from side to side. So feeling that one leg and foot starts to take more of your weight. And what we're going to do from here is come on into a one-leg standing balance, just quite a simple one. So as you're swaying, just deciding which foot you're going to stand on first. So whichever foot you feel more drawn to stand on, you can then open your eyes. You're going to bring the other foot to stand, just very simply, bring the other foot to stand on your standing foot and bring your hands into prayer pose in front of you. And just a few cycles of breath here. And noticing, how is it to be on one foot? Focuses our attention. And focusing our attention, we also want to make sure we don't start to bring tension in. So keeping our shoulders soft, keeping our jaw and our face, the space between the eyebrows relaxed. Good. Maybe another cycle of breath on this foot. Let the breath come in. Let the breath leave. Good. Come back down. Any little shaking out you want to do. Have a look back down at both feet. So you're settling both feet on the floor. I always have this looking at my feet because it makes this connection with the ground. I find helpful. And then shifting your weight onto your other foot. Bring the foot we just stood on to stand on that foot. Bring your hands into prayer pose in front of your chest. So again, we've got this focusing of our awareness into our foot that's on the floor. Our body, we have that intention that we're sort of quietening down and settling. Always, the reality is not always quite meets our intention. And just, can we soften the shoulders, the face? Can we feel the flow of the breath? Good. See if you can be there for one more cycle of breath. Okay. Well done. Come down, have a little shake out. And come to the back of your mat. So we're going to make our way down through a forward bend dog pose and then down into child pose. So if you like, you could bring your hands together at the back of your mat and we can sort of swing our arms up, which is quite nice. So letting a breath come in as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Feel long and tall, drop your shoulders away and then bending the knees, gathering the elbows in, down into your forward bend. So a couple of breaths in your forward bend. If you particularly feel happy there, then stay there for longer. And then on into dog pose. And the same in dog, seeing how it feels. 2 or 3 cycles of breath. And then on into child. And again, you can stay longer in dog pose if you like. Good. Again, think about really letting the heads go. Releasing the head, that's it. Bending the knees. Yes, and then folding down into child pose. We're not going to stay long in child. Just feel your elbows on the ground, maybe feel the forehead may touch the ground. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then I'd like you to slither forwards onto your belly, which I know for some of you is possibly more enjoyable than child pose. So slither forwards onto your belly and settle yourself down. You can have one hand on top of the other and your cheek or your forehead resting on the back of your hand. And then give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. And I think particularly if in child pose, I could see you looking a bit frustrated with your pelvis not settling. When we're lying on our belly, it's perhaps a bit more possible to wiggle the pelvis and perhaps to feel that the pelvis can settle. So we can wiggle the pelvis, we can then stop wiggling and have a breath or two and just see how it feels to lie there. Feel the movement of our breath. We might feel our breathing more in the back of our body when we're lying on our belly. And then you can also come to the one where you bend your knees and point the soles of your feet towards the ceiling. And then start to let your feet tilt from side to side. So this is a really good one to just sort of release everything around the pelvis. So yes, Sheila, I think probably a good sort of post-gardening move. Good. And just in a very sort of lazy, enjoyable way, let the feet rock to the right and to the left. So we could be here all day. I'd like you to eventually let your feet come back onto the floor and just have another cycle or two of breath on your belly. So just really coming back to feeling the movement of your breath in your body. And when we're lying on our belly, sometimes that's the movement of the breath in the back of our body. And from our belly, you might be pleased to hear that you're going to roll over onto your back. And it's fine. You can put your head the other way up on your mat if you prefer. Or you can just roll over. And then just see how it feels to settle on your back and how, yeah, it's interesting. How do you want to lie on your back? That's it, yes. So it could be with your legs long or your knees bent. In my little book, it says arrive. So yeah, give yourself a moment to arrive on your back. Maybe feel a cycle of breath move through you. Feel a breath come in, feel a breath leave you. And then bring your attention to your head. Feel the weight of your head on the floor. Let the head rest onto the floor. And then let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. That's nice. Just easing the head from side to side. So letting the shoulders rest back, and we're just letting the head ease a little bit from side to side. And then settling your head in the center, depending on how the back of your neck feels. If it feels that you'd like to pick up your head in your hands and lengthen out the back of your neck gently a bit more, you can do this. Yeah. So maybe don't pull on it. And then place your head back on the floor. So if your legs are long, now bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And come to a little bit of tilting your knees to the right and to the left. That's nice. And again, just keep this movement easy and lazy. And so it could be a bigger movement. If it feels quite easy for you, then a big movement can be lazy and easy. But again, if it feels a little bit twingy around your lower back or into your hip joints, then just keep it small and comfortable. Good. So once, twice more. And then settle in the center. And now you're going to keep your right knee bent and your right foot standing on the floor, and you're going to lengthen your left leg out on the ground. And that's it. So right foot standing on the floor, left leg long. You're going to maybe rest your arms on the floor beside you for the moment. You're going to come to that pressing movement where you press into your right foot. The right side of your pelvis comes away from the floor and you let your pelvis roll towards the left. That's it. Good. That's very nice. And remember, you're sending your knee forwards over the right foot rather than letting your knee wander to the left. Good. And repeat this a few times. So I tend to coordinate this movement with my out breath. So that pressing into my foot, I do that as I exhale. And that can help you stay a little bit more present. It can also help the movement feel a bit easier, a bit softer. Good. Okay, the next time you bring your right side of your pelvis back onto the floor, just stay there for a moment and cross your arms over your chest so you've got your right arm on top. Yeah, that right, Donna, well done. It's Friday morning, it's all a bit too much. So what you're going to do now is carry on pressing into your right foot, but you're also going to roll across your upper back. That's it. So your weight rolls towards the back of your left shoulder. That's it. Very nice, Sheila. And rather than rolling onto your right fingers, you can sort of trail them out on the floor away from the left side of your body. Good. Very nice. And make sure you let your head also roll over towards the left. So we've now got this feeling of, as we press into our foot, then we roll across our upper back and we let our head roll, that we're rolling our weight towards our left side. Good. Very nice. And just do this 2 or 3 more times. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to use this movement to roll yourself all the way onto your left side. So you could perhaps start to think about that. You don't have to do it immediately, but you could be thinking about, yeah, how can you roll yourself all the way over onto your left side? You don't have to keep your arms crossed over your chest, but and you know, when you arrive on your side, I'd probably bring the bottom arm to then maybe make a little pillow, and you're going to have your knees bent to start with. So you're going to roll on. You've rolled onto your belly. You're going to roll onto your side. Left side. That's it. Yeah, onto your left side. No, yeah, that's it. B. You went one stage too far. So what I'd like you to do first of all is settle on your side with your knees bent in front of you, and with your bottom arm making a little pillow for your head, or you could put a cushion under your head if you prefer. And have your top hand on the floor in front of you. And first of all, I want you to try and do those little movements where we lift our bottom ribs off the ground. So we're trying to make this almost like this little tunnel under our side. So lifting our bottom ribs off the ground, and just see. And as you're doing this, you could think about your top hip moving away from your shoulder. That tends to happen if you lift your bottom ribs off the floor. You have to let your top hip move away from your shoulder. That's it. Very nice. Yes, lovely, Hilary. I can see you now. That looks really good. Okay, maybe just do that once more and then settle your side down onto the floor. And from here, we're actually going to lengthen our legs out on the floor. So keep your top hand on the floor in front of you and your bottom arm. So you could keep it making that little pillow under your head. You could prop up your head in your hand. I quite like this because I feel a little bit more alert now. Or your bottom arm could be long in continuation of your legs, so lengthening the same way. Okay. If we've got our hand on the floor in front of us, we could then let ourselves roll a little bit forwards and back, or rock. Yes, that's it, just a little bit. So we're thinking about settling down on our side. We're coming to this side balancing movement, Anantasana. We want to be long. That's it, Kate, sort of long and straight. Yeah, that's better, well done. So you could, with your hand on the floor, you could look down towards your toes. You should be able to see your toes and maybe the front part of your foot. If you can see your ankles, your feet are probably too far forwards. And if you can't see your toes, they're too far back. Let's then come into tree pose on our side. So we're going to bring our top leg into tree pose. And you might want to use your top hand to bring your foot further up your thigh. That makes it a bit more of a balance. So once you've done that, then don't bring your hand back onto the floor unless you're feeling very wobbly. Good. And have a couple of breaths in tree pose on your side. Good. And from tree pose on our side, we're then going to gather that top knee towards our armpit on the top side of the body. So we're gathering our knee in, you're sort of wrapping your arm, that's it, around your knee. If at this point you feel very wobbly, you can bend your bottom knee, the knee that's on the ground, and slide it forwards. If you're feeling okay, we're going to start to lengthen out that top leg, and you're going to catch your leg somehow. So it could be your big toe, it could be your trouser leg, or your ankle, or your calf, just some way of supporting that top leg as you lengthen it up towards the ceiling. Yes, if it gets a bit, sometimes it can be a bit crampy into the hip joint. If it does, just fold the knee back in. And then can we have a couple of breaths with that top leg lengthening up towards the ceiling? Extending into both heels. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave. Very nice. Beautiful. Good. And then you're going to sort of slowly make your way down, sort of reversing, coming back through the same movements, not staying anywhere very long. Bringing back through tree pose, back to two long legs, and then you're going to roll back onto your back and just settle on your back and see how it feels. That's it. And just in between sides, before we come on to side two, you can settle on your back, maybe come back to letting your head roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. So sometimes in that, when we're on our side, the neck maybe isn't so happy, so it's nice to come back to rolling the head. That's it. And find a nice settled place for your head in the center. Again, if it's helpful to pick up your head in your hands and lengthen out the back of your neck, you can do. And then if your legs are long, bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor. And come to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's it. Good. Just a few times, seeing how that movement feels. And then pause in the center for a moment. Keep your left knee bent and lengthen your right leg out on the floor. And then you're going to let your arms rest on the ground. So first of all, come to just that pressing into your left foot, letting your pelvis tilt to the right. A few times, that's it. So as you exhale, you can press into your foot. And then when your breath comes in, you stop pressing into your foot. You let your pelvis come back onto the floor. That's nice. This is quite sort of a soothing and calming movement. So, yeah, good. Whenever you like, you can add the arms in. So crossing your arms over your chest. So you have your left arm on top. Hilary, just bring your right arm out from underneath. So your right hand's coming towards, no, it's coming towards your left armpit. That's it. Yeah, well done. Good. So pressing into your left foot, rolling across your upper back. So your weight is rocking towards the back of your right shoulder. Good. And see if you can enjoy this movement. It's just is a way of massaging across our upper back. Let your head roll a little bit more, Sheila, towards the right. That's it. Ah, very nice. Yeah, lovely. Good. Yeah, so enjoy this movement a few more times. You obviously know, you have the knowledge that where we're going to from here is eventually rolling onto the side. And just, I think, thinking about that as we're doing this may mean that we can roll onto our sides more smoothly. And yes, last time you rolled very smoothly onto your belly, which was impressive. So good. Yeah, so eventually you're going to roll onto your side and you're going to settle on your side with your knees bent, your bottom arm or an actual pillow, making a little pillow, a little cushion, making a little pillow for your head, your top hand on the floor in front of you. And see if you, first of all, you can come to those little movements where we're lifting the bottom ribs off the floor. So you're making a little sort of arch, a little tunnel. That's it. Very nice. Very nice view of that happening for you, Hilary. A little tunnel under the side of your body. And when you're doing that, you may feel that your right hip moves away from your right shoulder. So in fact, what we're doing is a little side bending movement, so a bit like our tail wagging. So do that once or twice more, and then we'll start to lengthen out and come on into our side balancing movement. So we're going to lengthen our legs out. You can keep your arm as it is, making a little pillow for your head, or you can prop up your head in your hand, or you can lengthen your arm out in continuation with your legs. So you've got a long line from your fingertips to your heels. So lengthening out on your side, as long and straight as possible. If your hand is on the floor, you can look down towards your feet. We can be rocking forwards and back a little bit. If you're looking at your feet again, you should be able to see your toes and the front portion of your foot, but not your ankles. And yes, a little bit of rocking forwards and back. Yes, Hilary, you looked to me that maybe your legs need to come a little bit more backwards. I'm not sure. It could just be the angle we're at. I think it's this tricky Zoom. Okay, and once, obviously from rocking, you're going to settle yourself on your side. And once you're settled on your side, you can then bring your top leg into tree pose. And it might be that you need to use your hand to bring your foot up your thigh. That's quite good. That makes it a little bit more balanced once your top hand comes off the floor. Good, so maybe keep your top hand off the floor then. Rest it on your thigh. Good. And from having a couple of breaths in tree pose, we can then bring our knee on and up towards our armpit. So that top knee is bent, it's folding in towards our armpit on the top side of our body. And again, at this point, if you're feeling wobbly, bend your bottom knee, slide that knee forwards. Otherwise, if you're feeling reasonably stable, you can start to then lengthen out your top leg, trying to just catch hold of that leg somewhere. So it could be the big toe, you don't have to straighten your knee. It could be your trouser leg, it could be your, your calf. Yeah, wherever you can comfortably hold on to your leg. And yeah, again, Kate, if it's crampy in the hip, then you just need to fold the knee back in. And sometimes this is on one side or both sides. Yeah, have a few breaths in the balance. You're stretching into both heels. Just trying to settle that. And then again, just unreversing the movements. Now this time, when you've come back through tree pose, back from two long legs, you're going to roll onto your belly rather than your back. And from your belly, you're going to fold into child pose, but just to see which is more comfortable. If you're quite happy on your belly, give yourself a couple of breaths there. And that's it, B. Yes, you can, any of that sort of wiggling of your pelvis on your belly is helpful. When you're coming on into child pose, so B, particularly for you, it's really helpful to think about that rounding your back in cat as you come on into child. So come into child for a couple of breaths. Again, if child pose feels nice, actually, yeah, B, that looks more settled. It's nice, actually. Well done. If child pose feels good, stay there for a couple of extra breaths. What we're going to do from here is just come back onto hands and knees, revisit cat, a little bit of tail wagging, and then through dog pose up into standing. And we're going to do our tree pose in standing. So at the moment, I'm finding it really helpful to come back and revisit things during my practice. So coming back to hands and knees and revisiting some cat movements. So if you're revisiting cat, just remember we have that focus on our eyes, our gaze. Where are we looking? Using our eyes to help us with the movement of cat. Looking back and then sweeping our gaze forwards. You can do a little bit of tail wagging if you like. Of course, you can add them both together, Hilary, and it's rocking forwards and back. And then whenever you're ready, you're going to move into dog pose. A few breaths in dog and then on through a forward bend and up into standing. And so again, seeing how dog pose feels when we come into dog after doing some things lying down. And I often find that my dog pose just feels a bit quieter and more settled. So from dog, we can walk our hands in towards our feet, have a breath or two in our forward bend. And then roll up into standing. Good. So just let yourself arrive in standing. And it could be that you do a little bit of swaying from side to side. It could be if you want to do the one where you swing your arms, you could do that. Just whatever movement really helps you arrive in standing. I was just thinking after some of the things we did on our back, the rocking with our arms hugged, it might feel a bit nicer in the shoulders doing this one. And as I said, we're going to be settling down and we're going to be coming into tree pose and standing. So we've obviously practiced tree pose already on our side, but it's quite a different thing, different kettle of fish. We could start by looking at our feet and with that swaying movement again, just deciding which foot we're going to stand on. And then in tree pose, we want to think about where are we going to bring our foot. So we've chosen our standing foot. We then want to just make sure we've got this movement that our pelvis stays facing forwards, our knee turns out a little bit. And then where are we going to bring our foot on our leg? Is it going to be the ankle? Are we going to bring our foot so maybe the heel comes just above the knee? Or are we going to catch our foot and bring our foot higher up on our thigh towards the top? We're trying to get the heel above the top of the thigh muscle. Okay, and then we're trying to feel that we're settled and organised below the waist. We bring our hands into prayer pose. And just, yeah, how is it to be in tree? And we might experience all these little wobbles of our standing foot. We might fall out. And if some of the bigger wobbles might take us out. If we're feeling reasonably steady, we might like to grow our arms up, so the branches of our tree. And let our awareness travel up and out into our fingertips and down into our heel and our toes, and to feel the ground beneath us. So our roots, good. And it might be that you'd like to then gather your hands back into prayer pose. Lovely. Yes, well done. Come down, have a bit of shake out, mate. Brilliant tree poses, really fantastic. Yes, of course, if you're still balancing wonderfully, you don't need to come down even if I say it. So let's start to move on to the second side. So again, that process might start with that just looking down at the feet. Always helps my brain. Coming up onto the ball of the foot we just stood on, and then we've got that movement where the pelvis, maybe hands on the hips, the pelvis stays facing forwards. We let our knee turn out to the side of it. And then where's our foot going to go? Maybe the ankle, maybe our foot comes just above the knee, the heel just above the knee, or maybe we're trying to draw our heel right up to the top of our thigh as a sort of little indentation above the thigh muscle. Good, and then hands in prayer pose. And how does side 2 feel? Can we settle here? Can we let our shoulders soften? Can we feel the flow of our breath? Again, if you like, the arms could grow up, keeping the shoulders very soft. That's it, beautiful. We keep the face relaxed, that point between the eyebrows. And again, can our awareness travel all the way up and out into our fingertips, maybe the air beyond our fingers, and then all the way down to our heel and our toes and the ground. We can bring our hands back to prayer pose. Very nice, wonderful. And at some point you can come out and have a little shake out. Now, Sheila, we did this on Monday. Something I haven't done for ages is I wanted us to do a little bit of rolling up towards shoulder stands. So you can put your feet, we're going to use either with our feet on the wall or a sofa or a bed. So Sheila, in your loft, you had your feet on the chair, didn't you? So fold your mat in half. And what I think we'll do is I'm going to have my feet on the sofa. We'll lie down. We'll try rolling a couple of times, and then we'll settle down. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit breathing. And then we'll go back and do a little bit more. So, because partly I was thinking there's maybe this sort of anticipation, as we haven't been doing this in class for quite a long time. So if you're using a chair or a sofa, you want to be able to have your feet on the edge of the chair or sofa. And if you're using the wall, you have your feet on the wall, and you don't want to have your bottom right up against the wall. And you don't really want to have your bottom right up against the sofa. Yes, Kate, that looks like a good organisation. And I think obviously don't start going until you feel that your neck is sort of feeling quite sort of long and relaxed. But then what I would like you to do is just a couple of times, how is it to sink into your feet and let your pelvis and spine come away from the floor. So if your feet are on the edge of a sofa or a bed, it's very much just a downward pressure. And if your feet are on the wall, it's sort of, it's down and into the wall. That's it, that's nice. So just a couple of times roll up and down. And Kate, you might find you need to be slightly nearer to the sofa. I don't know. So just, yeah, see how it is. So these first couple of times, that's nicer. It's really nice, I think, to be able to do this with feet on a chair or a sofa. Good. Okay, that's nice. So just reminding ourselves of the movement. And then just settle down for a moment when you've done that a couple of times. Settle down, and if you've got your feet on the sofa, you could just then put your lower legs on this chair, the seat of the sofa or the chair, which is rather nice. And come to a little bit of letting your head roll from side to side. Good. And then find a comfortable place to settle the center of the back of your head on the floor. And this might be a point when you'd like to pick up your head in your hands and sort of gently lengthen out the back of your neck. And then just before we come back and do a bit more rolling and maybe go on into shoulder stand, bring one hand onto your breastbone. So just beneath your collarbones, quite high up. So this, yeah, that's it. So this is the place where we can get a bit sort of tense and held feel a bit, a bit constricted in shoulder stand. So I'd just like you to have a couple of quiet breaths here. And particularly feeling how your breastbone can soften back and quieten as you exhale. So we don't have to, it's not a given that we, if you're someone who finds that this part of you gets a bit tense in shoulder stand, actually we can stay quiet and soft there. So in your own time, you're going to come back to your rolling, but pressing down into your feet. You can go on into shoulder stand if that feels something you'd like to do, but just keep that awareness of the sort of soft breastbone. And just go as far as you like. That's it. And also, yeah, Donna, you might need to be a bit nearer to the sofa, possibly. You're not there. That's enough, is it? That's fine. Just a bit of rolling up and down, or even just lying with your legs on the sofa is very good. You could pop it, yeah. Now, remember, if we only ever did one dog pose, we would probably hate dog pose. So it might be good to go up in shoulder stand, come back down, do a second one. It might feel better. If it feels great and you love it, then that's absolutely fine. But just, be aware that the first one might not, it could get better. Lovely, Hilary. And if you are staying in shoulder stand, think about imagining you're standing on the ceiling. So you want to sort of stretch your heels up towards the ceiling. You don't want to always keep them stretched, but you could really stretch them up and then sort of let the legs settle back into the pelvis. Yes, that's nice, Hilary. Good. Yes, that looks nice, Donna. Well done. And again, really stretch your heels up towards the ceiling, Donna. So sort of that's it. Let yourself sort of grow tall. That's it, Sheila. Stretch. Yes, lovely. Yes, the second shoulder stands look very nice. Good. Good. And of course, you don't have to stay there. It might be that you've had enough. It might be you want to come down and do a third one. It might just be you want to come down and lie quietly. After this sort of, yes. And I think, you know, there's something quite, I always find, I don't find shoulder stand easy, but when I've done it, there's something that feels quite refreshing, the sort of aftermath of it. There's a sort of, yeah, like having a cool drink of water. So if you've had enough, then you can just sort of lie quietly. You could let your head roll a little bit from side to side. If you're doing a bit more shoulder stand, that's absolutely fine. And if you've finished shoulder stand and wanted to come away from your sofa, we're all using your sofa bed, and do maybe a floor twist, a little bit of a twist, or a bit of tilting your knees. I wanted us to finish. Sheila, I know that you need to go, but so do go when you need to, and anyone else. But I just wanted us to finish with a little bit of breathing, which you could do either lying down or sitting. So I was going to suggest lying down, but if you would prefer to sit, then that's an option. And I think sometimes when we've done shoulder stand, it is quite nice to sit. But yeah, so take a moment if you wanted to do a bit of a twist on your back. Maybe just a little bit tilting your knees. And then just deciding whether you're going to sit or lie for the breathing. And what was I going to do? I was going to suggest that you might want a blanket or soxillary seems a good idea. I've just got a shawl out. Good. Yeah, second. That looks like a nice little nest you've got there, Hilary. Very, very good. So whether you're sitting or lying, let's start with 3 big sighing breaths just to help you settle. So let the breath come in through your nostrils and then a big sigh through your mouth. And if you're sitting, you can really let your shoulders drop. And if you're lying, you just really, again, give the weight of your body to the floor. And once you've had your 3 big sighing breaths, if you're lying down, have your arms resting on the floor beside you with the back of your hands on the floor. And if you're sitting, you're going to bring the back of your hands onto your thighs. That's it. So turn the palms upwards. And we're going to do this breathing. We've done this before where we touch our thumb to each finger pad in turn, and we have a cycle of breath. So I'm going to talk you through the first few and then I'll leave you. We'll go back up, we'll go down the fingers and back up, and I'll leave you to do the final few on your own. So start by touching the pad of your thumb to the pad of your index finger and let a breath come in and let a breath leave. And then bring your thumb to the pad of your middle finger and let a breath come in and let a breath leave. And then bring the pad of your thumb to your ring finger and let your breath come in. And let your breath leave. And then touching your little finger, having a cycle of breath there. Let the breath come in. Let the breath leave. And in your own time, you're going to go back up the fingers. So you're going to go back to the ring finger, then the middle finger, then the index finger, having a cycle of breath, an in breath and an out breath as the thumb touches the pad of each finger in turn. Take your own time, but when you've finished, if you're sitting, you could then turn your hands palms down on your thighs. And if you're lying, you could leave your hands where they are or bring your hands onto your belly. Good. And we'll just have a couple of quiet breaths. I'm going to ring the singing bowl in a moment because the builders next door are starting up and it's going to get rather unrelaxing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. What was I going to say? From next Friday,